What's going on, everyone? Welcome to my Nightblade build video for updates 46 and 47. In this video, I'm going to go over the two setups I like the most this patch on my Nightblade, the pros and cons of each, and what will be changing in the update 47 next month. Both of these setups will be fully functional in update 47 with the changes currently on the PTS, so as long as there are no major changes coming in the last week of the testing cycle, you won't need to worry about either setup becoming outdated for quite some time. Without further ado, let's take a look at the first setup. This first setup is what I've enjoyed playing the most this patch. The screenshot shows all of the details of the build, including the scribing details in the top right, so feel free to take a look while I quickly go over a few of the things that are missing. First, I'm using all prismatic defense or tri-stack glyphs on my armor. On my jewelry, I'm running 3 glyphs of physical harm, which are the weapon damage glyphs with a 10 stamina regen on them. The screenshot shows my armor weights via color coding, but if it isn't obvious, I'm using 3 pieces of heavy armor in the reinforced trait, 3 pieces of medium armor in the impen trait, and 1 piece of light armor in the impen trait. My attributes are distributed like so. For my food, I'm using the Bewitched Sugar Skulls for max stats. This gives a significant boost to damage and healing, while also providing a boost to sustain by having much higher max resources than a setup using the Bear Haunch, although you can still choose to use the Bear Haunch if you want higher recovery. I'm an Imperial on this setup, and I am also a Stage 3 Vampire. You could play this setup as a Khajiit, Orc, or Nord, but I found Imperial to be the best choice. For my potions, I typically use the Weapon Critical and Move potions, or the Weapon Critical Detect potions. As of right now, there is only one change in the upcoming Update 47 that affects this build, which is Major Savagery being added to Merciless Resolve in exchange for the weapon damage that it currently offers. To adjust for this change, I'll be swapping from the Weapon Critical and Moves and Detects, and instead using Tri-Stat potions or Heroism potions. Additionally, I'll likely swap out the Resilience CP for the Master-at-Arms CP to recover the damage lost from the Merciless Resolve weapon damage bonus, and I'll be swapping the Rejuvenation CP in red to Celerity or Fortified, depending on whether I want more move speed or mitigation. The second setup is another that I've really enjoyed this patch. On screen now is another Combat Metrics report showing all the details of the build, and I'll once again quickly go over the missing details. I'm using the exact same glyphs, armor weights, and traits as my first setup, which I go over at the timestamp on screen. And I am a Stage 3 Vampire and an Imperial in this setup as well. My attributes are distributed like this. The poisons I'm running on my front bar are the 6-second long Drain Stamina poisons, which are made using Chorusag, Dragonflower, and Mountain Flower. These help significantly with the stamina sustain on this setup, as well as helping pressure other players' stamina sustain. For my potions, I am using the Weapon Critical and Moves and Detects, and for my food, I am using the Orzoga's Bear Haunch. In Update 47, again, the Merciless Resolve change will be changing the potions that I use on this setup. Since Merciless Resolve will now offer Major Savagery, I'll be switching to Tri-Stat or Heroism potions on this build as well. Since swapping to these potions will result in a significant boost to Magicka sustain over the Update 46 version of this build, I'll also be switching to the Restoring Focus morph of the Templar rune instead of the Channeled Focus morph. This means the build will not only be gaining a ton of stamina sustain without losing any Magicka sustain, but that it will also gain even more healing as the Restoring Focus morph heals more than the Channeled Focus morph. I also wanted to take a moment to explain the pros and cons of these two setups in comparison to each other. The pros of the Wretched Rallying setup with Stormcalling, Aedric Spear, and Assassination are that it has better overall sustain than the Null-Arca build, more AoE damage, an unblockable stun, more overall damage due to the higher max stats gained from Sugar Skulls, and is much easier to acquire as Wretched Vitality as a crafted set. The cons are that this setup has much less healing and mitigation than the Null-Arca setup, as the Null-Arca setup has Channel Focus, the Restoring Light passives, and Major Evasion from Quick Cloak. The pros of the Null-Arca Rallying setup with Restoring Light, Stormcalling, and Assassination are that it has better single target burst because of Incap and Null-Arca compared to the Wretched setup. It has more mitigation and healing due to Restoring Light and Major Evasion from Quick Cloak, and in general, it performs better 1v1 than the Wretched setup. The cons of this build are that it has very little AoE damage, no unblockable stun and relies on off-balance and incap for stuns, and that Null-Arca is much more difficult to acquire compared to Wretched Vitality. Overall, I like both of these setups for different scenarios. The Wretched setup is much better for general 1vxing against varying skill levels of players, and is a bit more versatile due to the AoE damage and unblockable stun. However, the Null Arca setup offers significantly more survivability while having a higher single target burst ceiling, meaning it is capable of catching out and killing high skill players while they outnumber you, and it can hold its ground better than the Wretched setup against some of the stronger 1v1 setups out there. That's it for the builds. I'm going to put some clips from the past few weeks here at the end of the video showcasing some gameplay with each setup, but if you want to catch me live, I'll be streaming from time to time over at twitch.tv/reactfaster. If you've got any questions or feedbacks about the build or in general, I'd love to hear from you down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, enjoy the gameplay, and I'll see you next time.